Mastering the Art of Command. Admiral Chester W. Nimitz and Victory in the Pacific, Trent Horn, Naval Institute Press, Annapolis, Maryland. Now, the problem with the Americans is that in almost every book they are trying to prove that Americans were qualitatively very good. They had very gifted and superior leadership, and that is why they won the Second World War, which is absolute nonsense. Now, particularly the Journal of Military History of the USA, published by Society of Military History, VMI, Lexington, Virginia, is master in propagating this so-called propaganda, harping again and again on American qualitative superiority, that the Americans were very superior, no other race, no country could match them. Journal of Military History has been notorious in being the Goebbels, the propaganda master of United States military superiority. Now, this book is absolute nonsense. I wasted a lot of money in buying this and reading this, but it is absolute nonsense, pearls of nonsense. I can compare it philosophically with a nylon sock full of rotten manure. Now, the main issue why the Americans defeated the Japanese was because the Americans were simply overwhelmingly superior to the Japanese. The Americans built 18 fleets, 9 light fleets, 77 escort carriers, 8 battleships, 13 heavy and 33 light cruisers, 349 destroyers, 420 destroyer escorts, 203 submarines, and a massive number of other naval crafts. The Japanese simply could not match the Americans in this massive industrial production. So they simply had no chance of winning the Second World War, whether this character, Admiral Chester Nimitz, was there or not. This is absolute nonsense. And I don't know how this character, Trent Horn, has written this book. I wonder if American authors have even an iota of intellectual honesty. I have grave doubts. After reading them, they can churn such lies that Goebbels would be put to shame. I mean, such cheap propaganda. I don't know, this Naval Institute Press, they should be hung upside down. Such intellectual dishonesty, such white lies. I am shocked, at American intellectual dishonesty, Now, the main issue is that the Japanese could never match the American industrial might. Simply, there was no comparison. Japanese lost every major battle against the Americans, barring Pearl Harbor, which was a surprise, attack. So you can't really compare it. In attrition warfare, simply Japanese could not match the Americans. The Japanese concept of decisive battle was like Russo-Japanese War, where Japanese in one major battle destroyed the Russian fleet coming all the way from the Baltic Sea. So it was a very, short-term concept. Now, against the Americans, there was no decisive battle. A decisive battle, Japanese Navy versus the American Navy, was simply impossible because American industrial potential was too massive and big. Japanese could not simply defeat the American Navy in a single decisive battle. So, American victory in the Pacific War was a foregone conclusion, and this book, of course, is it's sheer intellectual dishonesty. I don't know how characters like Trent Hone and how this Naval Institute press can churn such, absolute nonsense. It's an absolute waste of time reading this book.